Good day, everyone. So I'm Reymark Magudang, and I will be discussing the remaining steps for preparing a lesson plan before class instruction. So number 4 is plan to sequence the lesson in an engaging and meaningful. So Robert Gain proposed a 9-step process called the events of instruction, which is useful for planning the sequence of your lesson. Using Gain's 9 events in conjunction with Bloom's revised taxonomy of educational objectives aids in designing engaging and meaningful instruction. So Gain's 9 events of instruction can help us build a framework to prepare and deliver instruction content while considering and addressing conditions for learning. Ideally, we should prepare course goals and learning objectives before implementing the 9 events. The goals and objectives will help situate the events in their proper context. The 9 events of instruction can then be modified to fit both the content and students' level of knowledge. So first is gain attention. Obtain students' attention so that they will watch and listen while the instructor presents the learning content. So gaining or begin the learning session by gaining the attention of learners. Ensure that the learners are motivated to learn and participate in activities by presenting a stimulus to gain their attention. This can be accomplished by presenting the learners with an introductory activity that engages the learner. So here are some methods to gain the attention of our learners. So first, present a story or a problem to be solved. Another is utilize icebreaker activities, news and events, case studies, YouTube videos, and so on. The objective is to quickly grab the students' attention and interest in the topic. And next, utilize technologies such as clickers and surveys to ask leading questions prior to lecture, survey opinion, or gain a response to a controversial question. So we can also make our students post question and the other students will answer that question. So those are methods or ways on how to gain attention of our students. So number 2, inform learner of objectives. Allow students to organize their thoughts regarding what they are about to see, hear, and or do. So after gaining the attention, inform the learners of the learning objectives to help them understand what they will be learning during the session. State what the learners will be able to accomplish during the session and how they will be able to use the knowledge in the future. This allows the learners to organize their thoughts on what they will learn and help them place in the proper mindset. So there are methods on how are we going or ways on how are we going to inform the learners about the learning objectives. First, include learning objectives in lecture slides, the syllabus, and in instruction for activities, projects, and papers. Another is describe required performance. And lastly, describe criteria for standard performance. So these are some of the methods or ways on how are we going to inform our learners about the objectives. Next, third is recall or prior knowledge. So help students make sense of new information by relating it to something they already know or something they have already experienced. So to do this or to accomplish this, present the learner with an experience or cue that stimulates their prior knowledge. Make connections between what they are learning and their previous learning. When people learn something new, it is best to correlate the new information with related information or topics they have learned in the past. So recall events from previous lecture, integrate results of activities into the current topic, and or relate previous information to the current topic. So ask students about their understanding of previous concepts. So there are methods on how are we going to stimulate recall of prior knowledge to our students. Number one is that we can ask if they have any previous experiences with the topic. And we can also ask questions about their previous experiences, their understanding about the previous concepts. And we can also give them an example of an experience similar to what they are learning. So those are methods on how are we going to stimulate recall of prior knowledge to our students. Is present new content. Utilize a variety of methods including lecture, readings, activities, projects, multimedia, and others. So use these strategies to present and cue lesson content to provide more effective instruction. So organize and group content in meaningful ways and provide explanations after demonstrations. So there are methods also on how are we going to present the new content. Number one, sequence and chunk the information to avoid cognitive overload. Next, blend the information to aid in information recall. And third, Bloom's revised taxonomy can be used to help sequence the lesson by helping you chunk them into levels of difficulty. So as teachers, we should present multiple versions of the same content. Example, videos, demonstrations, lecture, group works, and so on. So we can also use variety of media to engage students in learning. So especially now, sa new normal. And then we can incorporate active learning strategies to keep students' involvement. So now, students' involvement is very important. So that is number 4, present new content. Next is provide guidance. So advise students of strategies to aid them in learning content of resources available. With learning guidance, the rate of learning increases because students are less likely to lose time or become frustrated by basing performance on incorrect facts or poorly understood concepts. So offer the learner guidance by providing coaching on how to learn the skill. Give examples and advice of strategies to aid them in the learning content and of resources available to them. Also, provide guidance using cues, hints, and or prompts to help them understand and remember what they are learning. So here are ways to provide learning guidance to our students. Provide instructional support needed as scaffolds or cues, hints, prompts, which can be removed after the student learns the task or content. Model varied learning strategies such as mnemonics, concept mapping, role-playing, visualizing. So another po is um, concept mapping, di ba? We can use concept mapping for associations, role-playing for visualization of application. We can also use case studies for real-world application and analogies to help them construct knowledge and graphics to make them visual association. So here we can help the learners how to learn. So we can provide guidance. Next is practice. Practice allows students to apply knowledge and skills learned. So help students apply what they have learned to reinforce new skills and knowledge and to confirm correct understanding of course concepts. So design effective quizzes. So there are methods. So allow students to apply knowledge in group or individual activities. Next, ask deep learning questions to what make reference to what students already know or have students collaborate with their peers. Ask students to recite, revisit, or reiterate information they have learned and facilitate student elaborations. Ask a student to elaborate or explain details and provide more complexity to their responses. So we can also design effective quizzes and tests. Example, test students in ways that allow them to demonstrate their comprehension of course concepts as opposed to simply memorization and recall. So we can also provide formative assessment opportunities. So example, written assignments, individual or group project, and presentation. So with the help of these activities, we can say that or we can measure kung naintindihan nga ba talaga ng mga estudyante o yung learners natin yung ating lesson. Okay, next is number 7 is provide feedback. Provide immediate feedback of students' performance to assess and facilitate learning. So, after the learner attempts to demonstrate their knowledge, provide immediate feedback of learners' performance to assess and facilitate learning. This is also a good time to reinforce any important points. So here are some methods or ways. First, consider using group or class level feedback, highlighting common errors, give examples or models of target performance, show students what you do not want. Consider implementing peer feedback and require students to specify how they use feedback in subsequent works. So this stage helps reinforcement of a correct answer, gives guidance as to the degree of correctness of the task, and or provides corrective feedback if the response or behavior is incorrect. So there are tips on providing feedback. First is that we should be positive. Next, in giving feedback, we should be objective and we should use first-hand information or observation, then deliver focused and concise feedback and focus on areas that the students can control. So that is under provide or providing feedback. Next is number 8, assess performance. We evaluate the effectiveness of the instructional events, test to see if the expected learning outcomes have been achieved. Performance should be based on previously stated objectives. So we should test whether the expected learning outcomes have been achieved on previously stated course objectives. So some methods for testing learning includes we should administer pre and post test to check for progression, competency in content or skills. So it says here that utilize a variety of assessment methods, including exams, quizzes, written assignments, projects, and so on. So we should also embed formative assessment opportunities throughout instruction using oral questioning, short active learning activities, or quizzes. Implement a variety of assessment methods to provide students with multiple opportunities to demonstrate proficiency and craft objective, effective rubrics to assess written assignments, projects, or presentations. So that is under assess performance. Next is enhance retention and transfer. So this is the last event under Gains event or 9 events of a lesson plan. Allow students to apply information to personal context. This increases retention by personalizing information. So here, we should help learners retain more information by providing them opportunities to connect course concepts to potential real-world applications. So here are some methods. Provide opportunities for students to relate coursework to their personal experiences and provide additional practices. So avoid isolating course content. Associate course concepts with prior and or future concepts and build upon their prior and preview future learning to reinforce connections. To promote deep learning, clearly articulate your lesson goals to guide your instructional design and align your learning activities to lesson goals. So that is under enhanced retention and transfer. Next, number 5 is create a realistic timeline. So a list of 10 learning objectives is not realistic. So narrow down your list to the 2 or 3 key concepts, ideas, or skills you want students to learn in the lesson. Your list of prioritized learning objectives will help you make decisions on the spot and adjust your lesson plan as needed. So, totoo nga naman kasi kapag marami tayong masyadong objectives, hindi 100% na maa-attain natin yon or yes, maa-attain natin yung objectives na yun. So, sabi ito, narrow down your list of objectives. So, here are some strategies for creating a realistic timeline. So, first, estimate how much time each of the activities will take. Then, plan some extra time for each. Next, you prepare your lesson plan. Next to each activity, indicate how much time you expect it will take. And plan a few minutes at the end of class to answer any remaining questions and to sum up key points. And plan an extra activity or discussion question in case you have time left. And last, be flexible. Be ready to adjust your lesson plan to students' needs and focus on what seems to be more productive rather than sticking in your own original plan. So, you should also inform your students about their time, for example, in doing activities. So, as teachers, we should also knowledgeable enough para sa divide natin ng time sa bawat activities natin, pagbibigay natin ng activities sa ating mga estudyante. Kasi minsan, students needs time naman. Students need time to accomplish certain activity. So, yun po. And number 6, plan for a lesson closure. Lesson closure provides an opportunity to solidify student learning. Lesson closure is useful for both instructors and students. So, check for student understanding and inform subsequent instruction. So, adjust your teaching accordingly. Next, emphasize key points. Tie up loose ends and correct students' misunderstanding, preview upcoming topics. So dito sa closure, parang dito na tayo nagko-conclude. So we should give time para sa part na ito because dito natin isa-summarize kung ano yung ating napag-aralan sa buong session na yon. So, sabi niya, correct students' misunderstanding. Kung minsan may mga estudyante tayo na mali yung register sa kanila, yung pagkaintindi nila, for example, sa isang concept. So, yun. This closure is very important. So, your students will find your closure helpful. Yan. Yung sinasabi ko, summarizing, reviewing, and demonstrating their understanding of major points. Next, consolidating and internalizing key information and linking lesson ideas to your concept framework and or previously learned knowledge and transferring ideas to new situations. So, closure is very important. Para malaman natin, para mabigyan natin ng diin kung ano yung importanteng mga bagay na dapat nilang maunawaan or maintindihan doon sa lesson natin for that day. So there are several ways in which you can put a closure to the lesson. First is state the main points yourself. Today we talk about ganun. Pwedeng we can also as a student to help summarize them. Hindi lang yung teacher, hindi lang tayo as teacher ang magbibigay ng summary nung ni-lesson natin. Pwede naman tayong magtawag sa ating mga estudyante to check na din kung talagang naunawaan nila or naintindihan nila yung lesson natin. Ask all the students to write down on a piece of paper what they think were the main points of the lesson. Yun. Kasi kapag you can ask for a volunteer, parang minsan walang nag-volunteer. So mas maganda na lang na lahat na lang sila para walang lugi. And para naman as teacher, maunawaan, makita natin kung sino talaga yung mga nakaintindi or tsaka yung mga need improvement or kailangan pang turuan. Okay, so now, let's proceed during the class, presenting your lesson plan. So letting your students know what they will be learning and doing in class will keep them more engaged and on track. Providing a meaningful organization or the class time can help students not only remember better, but also follow your presentation and understand the rationale behind the planned learning activities. You can share your lesson plan by writing a brief agenda on the whiteboard or telling students explicitly what they will be learning or doing in the class. So, ganito yun. So, in my part, it's my practice na before I present the lesson, sinasabihan ko sila. Nung face-to-face, I will make an outline. Sinusulat ko siya sa whiteboard, yung magiging flow ng aming lesson. Halimbawa, may discussion kami. Okay? So, discussion, then after that, first, discussion. Number 2, short quiz, parang ganun. Number 3, board work, ganun. So, para sa ganun, yung mga estudyante natin, makinig sila. Diba? Para sa ganun, yung focus nila nandun sa discussion kasi iniisip nila, pagkatapos ng discussion, magkakaroon sila ng oral recitation. Magkakaroon sila ng board work. Para sa ganun, diba? Yung strategy ng teacher na yon is gusto niya na yung mga estudyante niya ay makinig sa discussion. So, yun, pwede nating sabihin sa kanila before tayo mag-start. For example, mamaya may discussion tayo. After discussion, meron tayong oral recitation, meron tayong short quiz, ganun. Para sa ganun, yung focus nila is nandoon sa discussion at hindi kung ano-ano yung ginagawa ng ating mga estudyante. Okay, so next. After the class, reflecting on your lesson plan. So, take a few minutes after each class to reflect on what worked well and why, and what you could have done differently. Identifying successful and less successful organization of class time and activities would make it easier to adjust to the contingencies of the classroom. if needed, revise the lesson plan. So, dito parang sa part ng teacher, parang self parang nagsi-self evaluation kung nag-work ba yung lesson plan, na nagawa mo ba, ganun. Hindi ba magpo-postcon ka sa sarili mo, magre-reflect ka sa sarili mo kung ano ba, paano nangyari yon, paano nangyari yung ganito, ganun. Na-achieve ba itong objective ko na to, nangyari ba yung gusto ko, di ba? So kailangan, hindi naman ibig sabihin that meron tayong lesson plan, yun na yung palagi nating sinusunod. Pero yun na yung, doon na tayo mag-i-stick. Pwede naman nating i-revise yung lesson plan natin depending doon sa pangangailangan or depending doon sa need ng ating mga learners. So, yun lang po. Thank you and God bless everyone.